Well, we're back because it is the start of November. Clocks went back, Halloween happened, all of that good stuff. But what I really want to get into is to inform you of the stats. So if you're moving here from another province, if you're within Nova Scotia already, or if you're moving from another country, we're giving you all of the detail that you would really ever need to know about how our market is performing, because that's what you need to know. So jumping straight in to what is the market actually doing? What is our biggest thing? And it always comes down to the average selling price. Well, right now our average selling price is at $635,000. So it's dropped a little bit from last month. I think looking at the numbers here, we're down 1% from last month, which was 642. But the big change we're seeing is that our average sale to list price is doing the decrease. So if we look today, we're at 97.6% list price to sale price. So list price is higher, 97.6 of that is what we're selling for. Last month, that was at 98.2. Last year, 99.4. So you can see we're on a bit of a downward trend. And I think that is one of the things that we're really starting to see now, with sellers maybe, let's say, overreaching a little bit when they start listing their houses. So that's kind of the first tip for the sellers, is you've got to be more realistic. And we've been talking for the last, I'd say, 5 months as well about the actual number of price reductions that we're seeing before the houses get accepted. And this month, we're actually sitting at $49,000 average price drop before you hit a list price that somebody then said, I'll give you an offer. And the offer is at 97.6% of sale price. So you can see that although our inventory is not very high, we don't have a ton of houses for sale, and the market is moving. Buyers are still buying, houses are still going conditional and then sold. But what we don't see is necessarily that kind of increase in the price that you would typically expect with a strong seller's market. And that's the key word. It's a seller's market, but it's not a strong seller's market. Strong seller's market means low days on market, multiple offers coming in, and all of the fun that we went through back in 2020, 2021, when that was absolutely a strong seller's market. Right now, we're not seeing the demand coming through from a lot of buyers. So because of that, we don't see a strong seller's market. It's strong in the sense that we don't have a lot of inventory. But when our days on market are increasing, when the inventory is going up, when the sale to list price is coming down, when the price drops are showing up, we are shifting. And it's definitely happening. It's just going to be a question of reacting. So sellers, you've got to be able to react fairly quickly to that market and see what's actually happening. So for our buyers out there, this is your time. November into December is when our market will slow down a lot, but we do have just over 1,000 homes for sale. So there is some choice out there for you, but you can take a little bit more time. You can see a few more houses for sure. But then I would also temper in this statement, because it just happened to a client of mine where we started talking on Friday after we'd seen some houses. We had a few questions to get sorted with the financing and everything else. We start then talking Monday morning about putting an offer in on that house, and that house has just gone conditional. So we are now going to have to be in a backup situation. So from a buyer's, the advice is be absolutely determined and ready. Get your mortgage pre-approval sorted, get your down payment where it needs to be in the right bank account, and make sure you're ready to act. Because when you see the properties, act. Don't wait. Just get your offer in, because if you don't get your offer in and it's a good property in a good area, priced well, it's going to go. And it's going to go in the first, I would say, 2 weeks, 14 days, because that's just what happened to us. Now, also, we saw another property in Dartmouth that we saw, like the house, good location, price decent. And we were like, okay, it might be day 2. We don't care. Get our offer in. And we're now conditional, working through our conditions on the board up there to get the property actually closed as well now. So you've got to be ready to take action. Buyers, be prepared. Absolutely. Get everything lined up, get everything in place so that when you see the property, you don't have to be talking and going through some of the other things that you need to get sorted in 3-4 days when somebody else has already put the offer in on day 3 and it then goes conditional. So we dealt with the sale price, we dealt with the average sale to listing price. Now let's look at those days on market, because we are sitting at 38 days on market. Last month it was 41, but last year it was 28. So yes, we've come down a little bit, but we are still like, you're getting into a month and a week, a month and maybe 10 days or something like that. So, you can feel that market is starting to shift, and that is one sign. The second sign, of course, is our months of inventory, which right now is at 2.4 months of inventory, call it 2.5. Last month, that was 2.9. So we actually came down a bit from last month. Last year, 2.1. So we're up a little bit from last month. But it's giving you that picture of exactly how our market is starting to shift. Now, when we look at the number of sales in the month, because this is going to be one of those ones where we compare it to last month, but also compare it to last year, because there was that funny change last month when the number of new listings went up, but the number of sales went down. And normally those two lines follow each other. Last time they split. One went up and the other one carried on going down. So it's going to be interesting this month to see, and we'll talk about how we compare that to not only last month, but last year in terms of the similar style of, let's say, where the lines are actually going. 410 sales this month. Last month, 363. So we are up 13% on last month. Last year, 394. So we're up 4% on last year. So that's a good, healthy number for October, because I did look at the stat as well and look at the actual graph to see, is that graph of the new listings versus the sales, is it doing the same thing as it did last year? And, we're certainly now both going down, as you can see from the graph. But the key thing is, obviously, last month we had that uptick and then the drop. That didn't happen last year. Last year, the lines kind of followed the same path, both going down, both going up, both peaking at the same time. Whereas this time, we had that extra bump last month. So I think that's one of the things to look at when you start looking at the number of houses that are actually for sale. That's one of the things that shows up from last month, is that, yes, there were more houses listed on the market. And that probably explains why October this year compared to last year was a little bit better in terms of the volume of sales. Number of houses actually available for you to go out and look at and shop is 1,001 homes. So still over 1,000 homes, which obviously gives that inventory level of over 2.4 months actually for sale right now. Last month, that was 1,051. So, okay, we're down like 50 houses in terms of the new actives. But last year, it was only 838. So we're up like 19% on last year, which is not really a surprise, because the market has changed, and we'll keep talking about that word changed how, from last year to this year. And that's been the big change. More listings for sale, which gives more choice for the buyers, which means you can potentially think about taking a little bit more time. But remember, buyers, we just talked about, if you see the right house, don't dwell on it, because you want to be the one that's in there. Otherwise, you could get into multiple offers, and that's not really somewhere where you want to go, especially depending on the price point that you're in. You don't want to get into multiple offers anyway. Great for the seller. Buyers, well, you know what? We've got a budget we're trying to stick to here. Moving on to the sales to new listing ratio, because we know that the new sales to listing ratio gives us a good idea as to like how much of a percentage are we actually selling, and would we see inventory increase? Well, this month we actually came down to 84, or rather came up to 84%, because last month 63%, this time 84. And that just goes to show that, yes, the inventory came down from nearly 3 months last month to 2.5 this month. Well, it's because that sale to new listing ratio is closer to 100%. Well, now 100% means all the new listings that go on the market versus all the sales that happen on the market, it's the same number. So you're not adding any inventory. Well, the closer you get to that, so we look at this month, 410 sales in the month, but new listings 489. So we didn't put a lot on. Look at last month, we had 573 new listings hit the market, and that's what screwed up last month in terms of the numbers and the inventory and everything else, is the fact that we saw that divergence from number of new listings versus number of sales. carrying on the trend of going down. Looking at last year though, that sales to new listing was 88% last year. So we're kind of like, apart from October, which was a little bit of a blip, or rather September was a little bit of a blip, October is now following back in that general trend. And if it carries on, we will certainly see new listings and the sales volume both start decreasing as we get towards the end of the year. So if we follow the same trend as we did last year, that's likely to happen. And November and December are definitely cooler months, literally cooler because of the temperature, but also in terms of the activity. So again, it gives more weight to the argument for buyers to absolutely be prepped and ready when you see that house. And sellers, you've got to be looking at the market. You've got to price it well. You've got to react quickly if nothing happens. And at the same time, not be waiting to try and sell. Like if you're just testing the market, November, December, January is not the months to be testing the market. You want to make sure, because the buyers are serious, so therefore the sellers, you've got to be serious as well, and actually make sure that you are probably the best property in your price range, in your area for what you've actually got. All right, let's run through the price brackets. So we've been looking at this a lot to see kind of like where most of the activity is, and to no great surprise, it's lower, certainly this time, but when we look at underneath $400,000 homes, we're looking at 45 sales there. 4 to 500, we're now back into the 90s, 92 sales there. 5 to 600, 98. So guess where all your activity is, because there's nearly 200 homes. Nearly half of all the homes sold are between $400,000 and $600,000 here in Halifax HRM area right now for October. And it's not a great surprise because that's really where a lot of the affordability is for Nova Scotia. So now when we jump up a price bracket, let's go to 6 to 700,000, tails off a bit, we're at 70. $7 to $800,000, we're at 37 for sale, sold, sorry. 8 to 900, 25 homes sale. 9 to $1 million, 10. And this is the interesting part. This is a jump. $1 to $2 million, 31 sales took place in that area. Now over 2, there was only 2 sales, so like not a lot going on there, both of which were in the South End, both of which had pretty big price tags associated with them because it's South End Halifax and they were gorgeous houses. Now between that 1 and 2, of the 31 homes sold, the areas were really like Halifax Peninsula, Bedford, which was interesting as well. There's quite a few over $1 million in Bedford, but Fall River, Hammonds Plains, and also St. Margaret's Bay. Now St. Margaret's Bay shows up in our top 3 markets because it's Timberley, St. Margaret's Bay, Upper Tantallon area. So that leads us nicely to start talking about the top markets and see what they did. Number 1 this month, these don't change very often. Like usually like number 3 is the one that kind of drops off, comes on, drops off, comes on. So we're up at Timberley, St. Margaret's Bay, Prospect, Upper Tantallon. We're talking a $739,000 sale price there, $763,000 list price, but a $60,000 price drop to actually get to the point of sell. Now, remember, we just talked about the stuff that was pretty expensive in the over $1 million range. Well, there was quite a few in St. Margaret's Bay, and they can afford to do some large price drops. So like the $60,000, yes, it's a big number, but a lot of it came from some of the big ones that are actually in there. More typical was that $20,000 to $30,000 price drop. 48 days on market, 46 sales in the month, 132 for sale, which means 2.9 months of inventory. And that's the number 1 market. Now, number 2, no great surprise, East Hants, Colchester West, Elmsdale, Enfield, Lance area. $520,000 sale price there, $532,000 ask in terms of a list price, but interestingly, a $36,000 price drop to get the houses sold. 47 days on market there, 35 sales in the month, and 101 available for sale. So up to 2.9 months of inventory there. And the trick there, of course, is look at number 1 and number 2 market, 47 and 48 days on market. Things are taking longer, even though they're probably like certainly East Hants, Colchester West, Enfield, Elmsdale, Lance, much more attractive price point there at $520. Coming in at number 3, it's Bedford raising itself into that top 3 position again. $739 for an average sale price there with a $763 listing. That gives them roughly 97% sale to list price. So some pretty good reductions sale to list price there for sure. And a $31,000 average price drop. Now, there were some big $1 million numbers in there, but they weren't doing huge price drops because it's Bedford. It's a very popular area. Properties hold their prices really well there. So you're not going to see big price reductions from a list price to get the property sold. It's going to come from, okay, can I actually get the sale number that I want versus what the client is actually putting the house up for sale. 34 days on market, 26 sales in the month, 62 actual homes for sale out there as well. So that's 2.4 months of inventory. So that gives you a really good summary of like basically everything that's going on, what we need to do for buyers, what we need to do for sellers, because we want to make sure that you, as whether you're selling a house or buying a house, are in the best position possible with the best information available to make sure you get the result you want. We don't want to be going out and looking for houses to buy for 6 months. Likewise, you don't want to be on the market trying to sell your house for 6 months. Well, this is where we can schedule, and if you want to drop a link, click on that below, and we can come in and have a conversation with you about exactly what it's going to take in this market to get your property sold and to find you the right home. Because here's the bottom line. The Halifax market is definitely not falling off a cliff, but it is going through a shift, and you need to prepare yourself accordingly to make sure that you can be in the best position possible when that shift is still going on, so that you're not going to get left behind if you're listing, and also you're going to find the right property that you're looking for when you're buying. So let's position you and let's stay ahead of the market. Click on that link down below, schedule a conversation, and let's see how we can do to get you in that right position to make sure you get the best result possible.